On today's episode of the Wild Party Podcast, we're diving into the rich, bold world of Indian coffee with entrepreneur Shonali Paul, founder of Paul John Caffeine Company. Born into a family of entrepreneurs and inspired by her grandfather's coffee estate in Coorg, Shonali turned her lifelong love of coffee into a mission to bring high-quality, shade-grown Indian coffee to the U.S. market. In this episode, we talk about her journey from enthusiast to coffee founder and what it takes to build a sustainable beverage brand from the ground up. We cover the complexities of sourcing directly from small estate owners, the challenges of navigating certifications, and how Indian coffee culture is rooted in tradition, stewardship, and community. If you love coffee, conscious business, and stories of bold women shaking up an industry, this one's for you. Let's get the party started. Welcome to the Wild Party Podcast, where we celebrate the visionaries behind vegan, ethical, and sustainable business. In each episode, we'll dive deep into their journeys, uncovering the why behind their mission-driven business. I'm your host, Stephanie Lahart. Tune in with me for passionate discussions about overcoming challenges, innovative marketing strategies, and the power of using business as a force for good. So whether you're an entrepreneur seeking guidance or a conscious consumer wanting to support impactful brands, join us as we explore the stories behind the businesses that are changing the world for the better. Let's get the party started. Today, I am so happy to welcome to the show Shonali Paul, who is the founder of the Paul John Indian Caffeine Company. She is a dynamic entrepreneur with a unique perspective on the innovative entrepreneurship and responsible commerce model. With that said, Shonali, welcome to the show. I am so excited to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me, Stephanie. What an introduction. I feel so so proud. Thank you.
Is it a lot to live up to? You a little overwhelmed?
Oh, always, but I feel like that's such a driving force, and it's always good to have that.
Well, I mean, the good news is everything I just said in the introduction, you've already done. It's not like we're talking about things you want to. Like, you've already started your own business. You already made your own name. You already figured out everything. And what I would like today is for you to share that with our audience, because there's so many entrepreneurs out there and new business owners that are like, "Oh my God, she's got it all figured out. She just, she just basically popped out of the womb knowing how to do everything." And we know in the
No.
story of the entrepreneur, that is not the truth. That is not the truth. So first, I would like to share something with you.
Sure.
I am what I would call a fairly recent convert to the coffee world. I grew up most of my life only drinking teas. I had never developed a taste for coffee. I was the tea girl. I like all kinds of fancy teas, doing all kinds of, different brewing methods, and just very,
Yeah.
very into the tea world. And then a couple of years ago, I started running in the morning. And for whatever reason, on this one morning, someone offered me a coffee and I drank it. And I realized that nothing warms you up on a cold morning like a cup of coffee.
So was it like instant love for coffee though? Like, did you ever think, oh, it's maybe a little too bitter or
It,
anything
it
like?
took me a while to develop my taste, but I
Yeah.
will have to say now I'm a true coffee convert. And now I want to hear everything about how to brew the most perfect cup of coffee, because I'm starting to get very nerdy like that. But first, let's talk about you, girl, and your
Okay.
journey and how you started all this, because I know coffee and actually, farming has been in your family for a long time. Like, you come from a family of entrepreneurs, clearly. So tell me what that journey looked like for you. Like, how did you become the coffee queen you are today? Where did it start?
Oh, well, so like you said, generations of entrepreneurs in my family. My grandfather actually had estates and in India, and the estates are still in the family to till today. My dad has his own thing with the liquor, and so the entrepreneurial journey or spirit is always been there, I feel like, and it's always been kind of like a mindset to, okay, what am I going to start when I grow up, and so it's always been like that for me. And I kind of started the coffee part really because I couldn't find Indian coffee in the Western world being here. And that was like the driving force to really starting this specific brand and this specific product and bringing that over.
Yeah, and India is not somewhere that we traditionally think of coffee. We think of tea, right? So
Yeah, exactly. So sorry, but like, most people when I tell them Indian coffee, actually I've had this been asked to me so many times, but like they'll ask me whether it's a brewing method versus, an origin of coffee. So it's like masala chai. Is it like something we add to the coffee to make it Indian coffee? And I have to explain to them that no, it's a coffee growing region. In fact, India is the sixth largest producer of coffee. It's always between sixth and seventh, but we're a large coffee growing region, country. We export a large amount of coffee. And so it's crazy that there's a whole part of the world that, just doesn't really have the chance to experience it.
yeah, let me tell you, it's all about the marketing. That's all it
Yeah.
is. It's like we just need a really good marketing story, and then everybody will forget that, anything about tea with India. It'll only be coffee. But we don't want to do that because I enjoy my masala tea
Yeah.
uh, just as much as the next person. But, take me back a little bit. So, what were you doing before you decided to start your own business?
Yeah. So I went to school, undergrad. I went to UMass Amherst. And then I went and did my MBA in hospitality. I've always been a very hospitality. That was always my major, always my interest. It kind of runs in the family. But I've always had that like experience side. I've always wanted to give a better experience or try to do better for a guest. And so that's what I did. I did my MBA in hospitality. And then when I finished, I was looking to see what to do in life and kind of just figure out what my next steps were and just talking with my dad and my family and just kind of figuring out what would be my next steps. A lot of the times when I was traveling, especially to study in different parts of the world, I would take coffee, Indian coffee with me with my Indian filter and kind of brew it with me every morning is just my little bit of home everywhere I went. And so, I kind of realized that there wasn't quality Indian coffee in the US, freshly roasted. The coffee that we know in the US or that you could possibly buy is at the Indian grocery store. It's been roasted like 2, 3 years ago, roasted in India and then exported. So it's not great coffee. It's not bad, but it's not great coffee. And so that was what I kind of wanted to do is just bring quality premium coffee to this part of the world. And I've lived half in the US, half in India. And so it's like bringing one part of my home to the other part. And so I kind of like that.
Yeah, so I read that actually you really developed your love for coffee on your grandparents' estate in Coorg. So, what age did you start drinking coffee? Since I already revealed I was a late bloomer. Was coffee part of like your childhood?
I think so, yes. And so a lot of the times I don't really remember the exact age I started to drink coffee, but it was definitely younger. So I would say around 16, maybe 15, studying for my like we have an SAT version in India in 10th grade. And so I remember like getting up and like drinking coffee to like wake myself up, like you mentioned. And so I really my love for coffee and like the business side of it actually grew seeing my grandfather, just 10 he would go every weekend to the estate. Living in the city, he would go to the estate, kind of walk it, and all that pride and joy and like just like glimmer in his eyes when he saw his like the land and the product that it produces after all that labor and love. And so that kind of love and that experience behind it came from my grandfather and the family aspect of coffee. In India, it's a very social thing. It's very much something that you do together. The whole family will sit down and have a cup of coffee. It's not something you grab and go in the morning. It's very social. It's very much an experience. And I think my love for coffee really came through with that whole experience being in India and growing up there. It was more about that family aspect. And I think that's why my heart's got a little bit of a soft corner to to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it really sounds like, coffee being part of your childhood. And then also, growing up in an entrepreneurial family, you probably never really thought about a 9 to 5 job then, huh? You were definitely going to be like, I'm going to launch a business. Where should I start? That's what I'm hearing.
No, yeah, I can't lie. That I never thought of going and working for a company. It was always to start something, and I can't kind of think I saw my dad do it. I saw my grandfather do it, um, and I always wanted to create something and build a brand, and so it's always been about that to me to get the skills needed to kind of do what I want to do.
Well, I mean, you did make the leap, which is totally impressive because, often
Thank
people will
you.
have an idea and they don't really know where to start. So, you did start this business by yourself, you bootstrapped it. What
Yes.
did that path look like? So you decided on coffee was going to be the industry that you were going to, get into. You were going to
Yeah.
create your own Indian coffee. Take us through like what was that map like or that timeline of like, okay, I want to have a coffee business. Like, what does that look like
Yeah.
then? Because clearly you knew where to get good Indian coffee, but how do you bring it to market, right? So, what does that look
Exactly.
like for you?
So I remember when I first started my journey as an entrepreneur, I remember thinking, so many people have started businesses. Why don't they have like a book? Why don't they teach this? Step one, step two, step three. And now looking back at it and you asking me this question, I'm at a loss for words sometimes because there's no step one, step two, step three. It's not like you do one thing and then you do the next thing. It's kind of doing five things and then two things work out and then the third thing crops up. It's like it's so many things all at once. And I think starting um this business, I think, to be very honest, having the support of my family, my dad, having some guidance in that business industry and the mindset really does help. When you're starting out, so many things, you have so much information, you're trying to gather so much information, and then how to take that first step is very, very nerve wracking. It's very scary, and having guidance definitely will help you do that. And so with the coffee, I kind of just jumped jumped in the deep end and just kind of brought in my first, less than container load of coffee and figured it out with the FDA over the phone. Like, what do I need to bring this coffee over? And I did have very good like help with the coffee industry. I have a coffee consultant that helped me at the beginning and is a very good friend of mine now and has helped me throughout even now. Just with any kind of industry help that I need. And so having people that have done it before and kind of I think the best advice I could give someone is kind of listen to everything and then make your own decision. And that's what makes you an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I laughed when you were saying like you were asking like, well, why isn't there a book on entrepreneurship? But then you answered it because everybody's journey truly is a little bit different. And like, yes, you can have a 1, 2, 3 step, but then there's 4, 5, and 6 that pops up that nobody told you about, and then you have to
Yeah.
figure those out.
Or
So
subsections underneath those. And it's so different for everybody. Everybody has their own way of getting there, right? And so it's so different for everyone. And I always wondered when I first started, I was like, why can't this be easy? So many people have started businesses. And I would look at my dad too and be like, why can't you just tell me what to do? And he's like, I can't. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
he's like, figure it out, baby girl, you'll do it. And
Yeah.
speaking of your dad, I did say I wasn't going to mention his name, but his name is Paul John. So why
Yeah.
did you name the company after him?
So a little bit of a sentimental thing, but my dad named his first company after his dad, John Distilleries, and so I wanted to name my first company after my dad, and so he has the single malt in the name, and I just thought it would, be a good branding thing as well, under one parent company, and I really just wanted to my first business to be named after him. I won't stop with one business.
Wow, she is setting it up. I love it. I love that you have that spirit to keep going. So clearly, nothing has gone so wrong that you're like, I'm absolutely never doing this again. Take me.
Oh,
Okay, so tell us then. So you decided you were going to start this coffee business. What does that look like? So you're getting the beans from India, and then how does that work? Is everything created and processed over there, and then packaged, and then shipped around the
yeah.
world, or what does that look like? Where's the production happening?
Yeah, so India. So India, like I said, is a large coffee producing region, and predominantly it's in the south. And so Coorg is where my grandfather, had his estates, and uh, it's in the coffee growing region, the major coffee producing state. And so the coffee gets grown, picked, processed to the point that it's dried, um, and then it gets exported from India, and then we import it here into the U.S. ourselves, and then it gets roasted here. Coffee, the freshness kind of starts to deteriorate the minute you roast it, and so keeping it in the raw green form and what we call green beans um, allow it to stay fresh, and we can roast it as and when an order comes in or as and when we need to. And the procurement or the sourcing of the beans has really been interesting to me because I have connections with my grandfather being over there, my dad too, and just a lot of friends and family who have been in this coffee industry too. We're able to source the coffee directly from estate owners, and then import it ourselves, which allow us to pick the kind of beans that we want, not just buy it from an importer that's picking his own.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in India, coffee estates are small coffee holdings. Coffee estates are small, and so they get aggregated almost like a co-op, and then they get processed further after drying in a curing works. And so that is a very cooperative society concept. So you don't just get it from one estate. You'll get coffee beans from a certain region of coffee, and you'll get that specific grade from that region. So it runs more like a cooperative society versus you directly buying from one farmer.
Oh, that's so great because I love that because then it's more of a community thing where everybody's
Correct.
taking part in this.
Yes, because coffee again, you can't control. There's so much about farming, you can't control it. You can do the best you can, but there's some things you can't control, like the rain, how much harvest is going to come out. And so this allows for them to pool in, especially a lot of after you dry coffee, it has to get processed. So there's a lot that goes into it. It gets hulled, destoned, color sorted, so many things. And those machines are very expensive. And by coming together, they have one facility that does this, and then they all use that facility to be able to process their coffee without each of them having to purchase those machines themselves. And coming together and producing larger quantities where exporters and importers can buy that quantity that they need versus one estate not being able to fulfill an order.
Yeah, and I know that I've read that it's really been important to you to really support local labor and traditional farming practices in India. So, has there been anything along the way where you realized like, you wanted to be that way, but perhaps in order to, have a something that you could essentially have for a mass market that you would have to change, or have you really been able to stick to what you started where I'm going to have local labor, I'm going to use these small farms, I'm going to make sure that, it is something that feels to me to be very,
Yeah.
organic internally, without compromising what I need for a market. Because I think it's always one thing to think, well, I want it to be this way. But when you get into business, you realize, well, wow, if I really
Yeah.
want to produce this product or make a profit, I have to do it this way. So has there been any balance or compromise that you've had to do?
For sure. Especially with the organic certification. Nowadays organic is such a common term that every product really needs to have for it to be on shelves, especially in bigger grocery stores like Whole Foods, and places like that where they really emphasize on having these certifications. And I have really pushed back as much as I can, especially on the organic side of it, especially that organic label. And again, like I said, because it's small estate holdings, to ask them to go and get an organic certification, 5 years of their crop is not going to have that certification because it has to be 5 years of not running with a certain thing. And you have to show 5 years worth of, it's a long process. It's an expensive process. And it really negates the smaller individuals. And so I've I've been quite firm on the not organic side of things. I know how coffee is grown in India, and if you talk to estate owners, they are very proud of the product that they produce, the land that they have. Like you see in my background, the coffee estates in India are naturally shade grown. That's just the topography of the region. So it maintains the ecosystem, maintains the birds, it pollinates naturally because of that. The soil doesn't get eroded. It gets naturally, filled with all these great I'm lost for words, but the soil gets um
Nutrients.
nutrients from multiple plants. So you have not just the coffee estates, but because it's shade grown, it's planted with other fruit trees like papayas and oranges and avocados. So it really infuses into that soil and gives it that unique nature and flavor to it that I think all these practices that they have done for generations have allowed them to be sustainable naturally without having to force them to do something. And I don't think organic certification really helps and promotes them. In fact, it negates them and it allows only for the bigger producers who have the money to do this to sell their products and export it, right? So that's something that I've really had to push back on, still am. It is something that I'm trying to hold firm on and kind of have that advocate. Because when you talk to estate owners, they'll say the same thing. They know how much effort and time they put into their coffee plants, that the organic farming certification sometimes is more a money kind of concept and not necessarily something that's sustainable. And then when you say fair trade, it's not fair trade because you're negating all the smaller farmers because they don't have the money to go and get it certified.
You are exactly right. And I will admit that that was one of the first things that I asked your PR people when they reached out to me because I was like, well, what is this? What is this? And I'm glad you explained it that way because, again, we slap the organic label on stuff as a marketing ploy in a lot of ways. And people
Yeah.
just say, oh, organic, all natural. And in reality, it's more of a hurt than a help in some areas. Like just very thoughtfully and totally explained to us. And I love that because I do realize and again in your literature that was provided to me, you have shared that Indian estates treat their land as something that they steward and they don't own. So the fact that they care for it in this way, makes sense that the ecosystem all works together. It's like we don't have to be organic because we've already set it up correctly in the first place.
Exactly. And like my last trip to India actually was so insightful. I had met with an estate owner, again, multi-generational, and a lot of them are like that. Their grandfathers had, the estates and and so they really do believe in that aspect of them being the steward of the land. And, there'll be elephants passing through the estates and wild boars and they don't they may be ruining some of their crop, yes, but they're not going to go and do something to that animal because at the end of the day, we have carved out trees or we've carved out space in the estate for roads and houses, so they're all disoriented and they're going through the estates then instead, right? And that's how he explained it to me, and I thought that was great. Like his understanding of it is that, yeah, we've already messed up their ecosystem enough. We don't need to do anything more to trouble them. We have to let them be. This is their land more than it is ours. And so I thought that was just like a phenomenal way to look at it and very, eye-opening.
You're exactly right. And I think especially, we're here in America and I feel like we kind of take it to extremes here where we always feel like we'll just make nature better by, totally flattening the land and then rebuilding something instead of letting anything natural. In fact, I'll share a story with you. I was at the gym the other day. There was a very tiny bug on the floor. Everybody started freaking out about it. They couldn't wait to kill it. I'm like, in 5 seconds, you're not even going to see that bug anyway. Like, I mean, it was like so overblown, but we're so used to, I feel, battling nature that
Yeah.
they couldn't let one little bug live. It was like, oh God, it has to die. It's like, really? I mean, it was a tiny little, I don't even know what kind of bug it was, but unfortunately, that bug did not make it. And I very much
Oh,
wanted the capture, I call them the capture and release brigade. So everything capture release, I don't kill anything. That's not trying to specifically kill me.
Yeah.
But, in a lot of ways, I think that, we need to understand and be more accepting that, living in harmony with nature is the way, instead of always feeling that, as the top of the food chain, as we like to consider ourselves, that we have the right to change everything in nature,
Yeah.
and also displace animals and bugs. So thank you for treating the land in that way. I'm sure you have many lovely bugs on your estates that are doing their job and need to be there.
Yeah. No, again, all credit goes to estate farmers and growers, because the amount of effort and hard work that goes into our cup of coffee is just absolutely incredible. And like the amount of, like, every time I go back to India to source coffee every year, I have like a newfound appreciation on top of what I've already had, because of just how much effort actually goes into making that coffee and then finally us drinking it. It's just, there's so many steps, there's so many things that can go wrong, and it all starts there where it's grown. And so really all the credit goes to the farmers and the estate owners for really giving us a solid base to work off of.
Yes, and now you've brought Indian coffee to us, and I'm so excited to try it, hopefully in the
Yeah.
very near future. So, with that said, I did tease kind of at the beginning that typically when we think of the coffee industry, it is male dominated. And,
Yeah.
that is something then you, as, a woman and fairly younger woman, has decided I'm going to have my own coffee brand. So, have you seen any kind of, struggles that have arisen because you're like, hey, I'm a woman now in this industry that's mostly men, and how have you really dealt with it?
Yeah, I will say the coffee community has been very welcoming, very nice. And going into starting any business, you're nervous. It's hard to, connect with people, and then just being the minority gender too doesn't necessarily help that situation. But my experience has been that the coffee industry has been very welcoming, regardless of it being a male dominated industry. They are open to sharing. A lot of the women that are in the industry are even more so helpful and open to talking and helping each other out. That I feel like it's not as it is hard to break into any industry that that is not equal, and we'll get there at some point, but I think we are moving in the right direction in that sense of fostering conversations, inclusion to know everybody. And I think that the coffee industry that I know and have met in India, both in India and here in the US, have always been very welcoming and very nice and very forthcoming with information and being helpful. And I think that that's just like a great community to be in.
So awesome. So then what you're saying is maybe be thought of as male dominated, but it is not a problem, and they're very nice to me.
To me, yes, they are, because you don't see very many women in the industry. You don't, but they are not. Uh, Whoever I have met have not been tough and hard to kind of crack through to help you out. And so we'll get there, as more and more women are open to trying new things. It is a lot of, you have to travel to the origin and stuff like that. And so those hurdles, we'll get over them, of like getting into the rooms that we need to be in. But I think that from my experience so far, they've been really great and helpful with things.
Well, I will let you know that the Wild Party podcast is extremely friendly to coffee entrepreneurs of the female persuasion, because we have already had a different founder on in a different company. Her name is Natalie from Cafecita Coffee. So
Okay.
the fact that I have now had two coffee founders on, I feel like I am doing my part to really
For
change. I think the perspective of like maybe it's not really male dominated, because I've had two female founders on
sure.
and no male founders have approached me to be on the show. So there
Yeah,
you go, ladies. Start your coffee business if you want to. There is plenty of
for
space
sure.
out there.
100%.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about what it's been like for you with the marketing of it. Because we've already
Yeah,
mentioned that India is not traditionally known for producing coffee. It
correct.
is, different and maybe even different the way you brew it. So tell me, like, what have you what have you done to like educate the market without overwhelming them? And how does that play into your marketing? Like, what are you
Yeah.
using to get the message across?
Yeah. So I think again, starting any business, it's slow moving. It's a lot of educational. And then on top of that, to be a product that is new and that has not been in existence already, there's a lot of foundation that needs to be laid. And so with we try to educate as much as we can. And in education, I mean sampling and tasting and talking to people, just to get them to even know that India is a coffee growing region and that we produce coffee. And even if they did know India produced coffee, they had a certain notion of it. And so to taste quality coffee and to taste the good quality. And so I really heavily rely on sampling, and we try to do as many events and sample anytime that we can so that people are able to taste the coffee that we're talking about versus just hearing about it. And I think with coffee, my whole approach has been the experience side of it, because that's how I kind of fell in love with coffee. And so I feel like that's how people will fall in love with Indian coffee, is kind of the experience of tasting it and the experience of talking to somebody while they're tasting it versus just kind of getting a bunch of jargon and not having anything to kind of taste it with and know what we're talking about when I say papaya and and avocado and chocolate notes. So that's been my kind of approach with marketing, is really trying to get it to be sampled as much as possible and then to educate them on the various practices and things like that.
Yeah, and I've noticed that you are pretty active on social media. You have a great Instagram page. In fact, you've even been yourself in a bunch of the posts. So,
Yeah.
seeing you brewing the coffee as, the founder as well. But here's the thing. Right now, coffee is having its moment on social media. I can't
Right.
tell you how many feeds I see where people are showing you their brewing process and all their different
Yeah.
recipes and everything like that. So what has been your plan then working with maybe some ambassadors or influencers to really help you get the word out about, this amazing coffee company?
Yeah, so we have an affiliate program, and so we work with a lot of ambassadors and creators to have them taste the coffee and to give a genuine opinion about what they liked about it and their opinion about it. Because I do believe that if you're able to taste the coffee, you're going to like it. It's just a matter of breaking that barrier of, oh, what's Indian coffee? I don't know. And, not wanting to try it. And then, so we do a lot of that where we reach out to a lot of creators and ambassadors where we can give them the coffee to try out and give honest opinions about it and then share their experiences with it. And I think that's a good way to kind of, word of mouth. In today's day and age, that is word of mouth, right? And so that's also another aspect of the marketing funnel that we're trying to build upon.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Social media is word of mouth. That's exactly what it's there for. And I personally love it. I'm a big fan of social media. It's helped me in many ways in my life. But
Yeah.
I really do like when I'm trying to figure stuff out, like, hey, how do I brew this coffee? Or how do I even use this thing, machine that I bought?
Yeah.
I do watch other people use it. So I think it's super helpful. And, then also expanding in the markets because you can get real time feedback when people are asking for new things. Because I did hear that you were actually thinking of expanding maybe into concentrates and new brewing formats. So what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so we actually do have K cups in the pipeline. We're very close to launching them. I'm very excited about it because we've worked pretty hard on trying to get that K cup product to taste like what we would want it to taste if we were to do it in any other brewing form. And I think that that's going to help us get to more like of the masses, because a lot of people do just have the Keurig machine. They don't have the time in the morning to sit down and make an espresso and make a fancy latte. You would love to do it on a Saturday and Sunday, but maybe not every morning. And so the K cups are going to help us reach a wider market and be able to promote and educate people on just Indian coffee and the origin of Indian coffee and really spread the word that way too. So I'm excited about that. I'm very proud of the K cups as well, that we've taken a lot of effort into making sure that they are brewing the way we would want customers to taste the coffee, in the best way possible.
Yeah, and that was actually one of my initial questions was, is the brewing method totally different? Because I did notice on the website that you had the pour over kind, you had the French press kind, and I was wondering, what is the optimal way to enjoy Paul John coffee?
So, I get asked this a lot actually, and I always like to tell people that so I drink my coffee, my first cup of coffee is with milk and sugar. And so I'm very much the type of person that believes that everyone should drink coffee the way they like to drink their coffee and not feel the pressure to drink it black or drink it as an espresso. If that's not how you like it, don't do it. Drink it the way you want to. And the good thing about our coffees are they come in beans. So you're able to grind them to any size. We're able to grind it for you and send it out to you, or you can grind it yourself. And we like to keep it in the bean form so it stays fresh longer. But that allows for you to brew it so many different ways, and it really can be brewed any way you would like to. We have different blends that are better suited for different brewing techniques. But the traditional, the one different blend that we have is Smell of Rain, and it's actually got chicory in it. And it's a traditional Indian blend to have chicory in it. And that is brewed in a South Indian filter. It's like a slow drip. And so what you get is like a concentrated coffee. And so you add that to milk and it's perfect. It's what I drink every morning. First cup of coffee is always that.
The first cup of coffee, let me tell you, that is a pleasure. And like I said, I'm
Yeah.
late to the coffee game, but I feel like I'm catching up. And I'm becoming more educated now because of people like you.
Oh,
So thank you for sharing your morning coffee recipe. I might have to try it, although I will be using oat milk or something like that
yeah.
with it.
I'll definitely send you the blend. It's great. If you like chicory or have never had it, it's a nice, thing to try out and see. I really like it. So
I haven't had it in coffee formats, but I've had it where it's been added to teas and things like that.
okay. Yeah.
So I'm familiar with the taste. Yes, I would love to try it. But with that said, it's been so impressive to watch you on this journey. What is kind of your plan or your vision for where you want to take this company? Are you looking, because right now you sell online, are you looking to get into retail outlets? Are you trying to open up your own fancy like Paul John coffee store somewhere?
Yeah. So this year, I think we are really focusing on getting into more retail outlets and just trying to be there physically in person in a grocery store so that people can see the bag and kind of have a wider reach. And so this year, that's our goal is to kind of get into the retail aspect. Cafe, we may not do just yet. I really do want to kind of expand and kind of give the coffee beans because I do believe people are going to start to brew more in their houses now. They're going to brew within their own home the way they like to. We're kind of moving in that direction where people are buying, espresso machines and kind of playing around with it. And like you said, getting into that whole art of it. And I think that whole experience of brewing your cup of coffee in the morning and things like that is something that I like, and I think that that's how people fall in love with coffee. So I do want to focus more on the retail side of it, maybe not the cafe side yet.
Well, I'm totally on board with you with that.
But
I
you
am
never
not a
know.
person that likes to hang out in coffee shops. I find them to be very, very noisy, very
Yes.
hectic. I'm always actually amazed when I look around and people have their laptops and I'm like, are you actually working? Because I could never work in a setting like that.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
could.
never. So yes, I'm a home brewer. I enjoy, having my quiet space and, being with my family and my dog and my things and
Yeah.
brewing the perfect cup of coffee like you.
Oh, yeah, no. My dog and me in the morning, it's a routine. Coffee, we sit on the couch, we just reflect on life for 10 minutes and then hit the ground running.
Pretty much my morning. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I've learned so
Yeah.
much, and you are a joy to talk to. Please tell our listening audience right now where they can find you online because I know everybody wants to rush out and try this coffee. I'm
Oh.
like actually sitting here getting a little drooly because I want to taste it.
Well, yeah, you can find us at pauljohncaffeine.com. And we can ship it to you nationwide. We have about 9 different blends, and we can grind it whichever way you want to, if you want it ground, or you can grind it yourself. And we have a bunch of different accessories that help you brew it too, and a really fun Indian brewer, which is what I do in the morning. So that's
Wait, are you talking about the brass one? Because I was just looking at
yes,
that one. So
yeah.
pretty.
It's hand poked, and it's kind of like a labor of love in a sense, because it does take like 15-20 minutes for that coffee to brew. It's not quick. So you do it as soon as you get up in the morning, then you go to, do the rest of your morning routine, and then you come back and you've got that perfect concentrate of coffee that you can add to anything.
Yes, and then you'll feel like you're like living, I don't know, in a romance novel because it's just
Yeah.
so elevated. It's life elevated. And speaking of which, I did mention your Instagram earlier. So anybody listening out there, go check out the Instagram because just to see the coffee being made, I mean, that is just like pure bliss to me. Talk about satisfying experiences. So follow them over on Instagram just so you can start understanding how this will just elevate your life and how it's a different experience. And with that said, Shonali, it has been a delight talking to you. You are a true entrepreneur, and I am there for all of your businesses. So you let me know whatever else you start. You reach out to me, and be like, Stephanie, I'm doing this now. And
Thank
we'll see.
you.
We'll see what
I
we can do
so
with it because
appreciate
I support you, girl.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure to talk to you too. Thank you for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Wild Party Podcast. If you're an entrepreneur or professional who would like to be on this podcast, please visit boomtownmarketing.com and click on podcast. We believe that every business has the potential to change the world for good, and we want to support our community to help make the world more ethical, compassionate, and sustainable for all future generations to come. And if you're looking to build your business, no matter what level you're at now, request your free marketing consultation at boomtownmarketing.com and click Get Started.